and gentlemen, thank you guys for taking some time out of your day to join me for this video. Today, I am gonna go over a game preview of the first game on Saturday afternoon in the NFL playoffs. We're talking about the 4-seed Bengals and the 5-seed LA Raiders. This game should be an awesome one from start to finish. I'm excited to get into it, deep dive a little bit with you guys and talk about what we might see in it. In today's video, I'm going to give my overall look of the game. I'm going to talk about both offensively and defensively for both teams, what we see there, how they match up, and then I'm going to give you my final thoughts and make a pick on it as well. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome. Please consider liking and subscribing. Your support means so very much to me and it helps me out a ton. I appreciate it so much. If you have any questions or if you disagree with some of my takes on what this game might bring, please drop those down below. I want to be able to engage and I love when I can answer questions. With that said, done and out of the way, let's get into Week 19's Wild Card Weekend, Bengals Raiders. Coming into the showdown, Cincinnati won 3 straight before basically giving themselves a bye in Week 18. It was highlighted by an epic Week 17 win over the Chiefs. Their offense is playing better than anyone else's in the league right now. I'm not sure you can make an argument against that. And for the Raiders, they reeled off 4 straight victories in an improbable run. They won in multiple ways. They were able to grind out some low-scoring affairs, those over the Browns and the Broncos, and they were able to win a shootout against the Chargers as well in Week 18 in that epic Sunday night game to get that playoff spot. It was an improbable and inspiring run from them to get that final spot, especially when you consider all of the distractions and the obstacles that were in their way to be able to get to this position. For my team preview, we're going to start with the Cincinnati Bengals and their offense. It is scary, and that is because there are so many different awesome playmakers that can beat you in a variety of ways, and they are really hard to shut down one-on-one. And at the controls of all of it is one of the best young stud QBs in the league in Joe Burrow. They scored 40-plus points in 5 out of their last 11 games to finish the season. Obviously, that firepower is there. Cincinnati is top 7 in the NFL in both points per game and points per play, and it is easy to see why. We start with Joe Mixon. He finally had that monster season that we have been waiting for since he exploded onto the scene back in 2018. His 16 touchdowns this year were 4th most at the running back position. He also is a major threat out of the backfield. He had over 40 catches, and he can do it all for this offense. The defense has to account for him on every single play. We are just getting started. When we look at the wideout core, it rivals anyone in the league, and I do not take saying that lightly. We start with Jamar Chase. He's been an absolute sensation. We know of his 200-yard games. He had 2 of those. He had 13 scores and 1,455 yards to go with them. He was within striking distance of the rookie record for most reception yards in a season. He is great after the catch. He can burn you deep, and he is absolutely fearless going up for the ball. T. Higgins, he missed 3 games this year, and he still was able to finish with over 1,100 yards. He has true wide receiver 1 traits all over the place. Finally, Tyler Boyd. He's about as good as a number 3 gets in this league. He had over 800 yards, and he can threaten defenses almost as good as T. Higgins can. Obviously, he does not have the size that Higgins has, but whenever defenses have made adjustments and tried to shift and try to stop both Higgins or Jamar Chase, Boyd has the skills to make them pay, and I saved the best for last. That would be Joe Burrow. He not only led the league in completion percentage, but he did it averaging 8.9 yards per attempt. That was most in the NFL, and that is a very, very rare combination to have. That's simply incredible. The concern, of course, here is the turnovers. Burrow threw 14 picks, 6th most in the league, but he did not throw a single pick in his final 4 games, maybe singling that he was getting that together when they needed it most. There is no hotter quarterback in the entire league right now than Joe Burrow. He had 971 yards in his last 2 games combined. That's against Kansas City, who was one of the stellar defenses towards the end of the year, and Baltimore, and we know that they were falling apart. My only question and concern for that offense for Cincinnati is the health of their stud signal caller. We talk about the knee situation with him. He banged it up late. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But if that is solid, there are going to be fireworks all over the field for Cincinnati. One other thing of note, of course, is that offensive line. They gave up more sacks than any other team in the NFL, so that is also a concern. They have allowed Joe Burrow to get hit more often than not, and as long as that knee holds up with it, they'll be fine. Up front for Cincinnati, the defense is led by Trey Hendrickson, who had the 5th most sacks in the league with 14 of them. He had plenty of help from other players, and 3 other defensive linemen on this team had at least 5.5 sacks. That is extremely impressive. They love to get after the quarterback, and the offense allows them to do just that a lot of the time. Since he boasts over a 30% quarterback pressure rate, that is 9th best in the NFL, and if Cincinnati can get out to a hot start and get a lead, it is going to be a big advantage as those pass rushers are able to pin their ears back. Cincinnati is a top 5 rushing defense. They are susceptible, however, in the passing game. They allow over 250 yards a game and have been lit up more than a few times. It could easily become a shootout here if Derek Carr catches fire and the Bengals struggle as they're trying to find answers. Overall, it has been a fine season for Coach Zac Taylor. The turnaround for Cincinnati has been impressive. There is no doubt about that. I have been a fan of his aggressiveness for most of the season, but week 17 for me brought a major concern. In case you missed it, the Bengals tried really hard to throw that game against the Chiefs, going for it on 4th down not once, but twice, with under 50 seconds to go in the game. It was tied 31-all at that point. The Chiefs did not have any timeouts, and Zac Taylor refused to really want to take the lead here. He decided to go for it, put the hands in his quarterback, and usually I love the aggressiveness, but it does not make sense to me when you can actually take a lead to put that at risk because you are so concerned that Patrick Mahomes is going to come back and score a touchdown. In that game, Cincinnati had held the Chiefs to 3 points in the entire second half. So that defense was playing well. They hadn't given up that many points in almost 30 minutes. And he was saying in 50 seconds, Mahomes was going to drive the length of the field to get that team in field goal range, and he was afraid of that. It just does not make sense to me. Taylor ended up getting bailed out on back-to-back plays. They ended up settling for the field goal at the end of the day anyway, so it didn't come back to bite them. But Joe Burrow also got banged up on that 2nd, 4th down try after the penalty. And that would obviously have not happened had he just taken the field goal like he should have in the first place. Maybe it was a one-off from him, I'm not entirely sure, but you cannot make that type of boneheaded decision in the playoffs and get away with it, period. Let's move to the offensive side of the ball for Las Vegas. They were solid most of the season. They finished ranked 11th in total offense, averaging over 364 yards per game. The area of concern, however, comes on the ground. They were ranked 28th in the NFL in rushing at just 95 yards per game. That will not get it done against Cincinnati. Much of that, of course, had to do with the offensive line, which has struggled mightily at times. Josh Jacobs has been solid, but not spectacular, but he really came on towards the end of the year. He had 2 games out of his final 3 where he rushed for over 125 yards. Jacobs is going to continue to be the focal point in this offense, which is hurting for playmakers. He is going to see a hefty workload once again. Hunter Renfrow came out of nowhere to post his first 1,000-yard season, stepping up in a big way when the Raiders needed him most. He certainly did his best when Darren Waller went down, but they're going to need more from both of those guys if they're going to keep up with Cincinnati's high-powered offense. It remains to be seen what Waller can actually bring to the table in this game, as he had just 22 yards on 9 targets in his first game back from a 5-game absence. That left a lot to be desired, and he will likely need a monster performance to help support Derek Carr and take pressure off of him. Speaking of Derek Carr, this is his first ever playoff game in 8 seasons. It would not surprise me at all if he comes out a little slow, a little jittery, but I'm betting that he's going to settle in fairly quickly. He's going to need to, because this team does not want to get behind early and have to play catch up. That is just not how they are made. Carr's 4,800 yards ranked 5th most in the league, but he also was bottom 7 in both interceptions and sacks surrendered. Considering the strength of Cincinnati's pass rush on the other end, it could be a long day. While it is certainly not a strength, it is not as bad as you may have been led to believe as far as the Raiders defense. They ranked in the upper half of the league in yardage allowed. They did, however, surrender 26 points a game, which was 26th in the NFL. They have a dynamic duo up front in Max Crosby and Yannick Njoku. They combined for 18 sacks, and Crosby actually led the league with 82 quarterback pressures. If given the chance, they can certainly dictate an offense, especially with a solid secondary and support behind them. Their best chance in this game is to limit the big plays, and they do that better than almost anyone in the NFL. Play that bend but do not break defense, because no one matches up well with the offensive weapons that Cincinnati possesses. We know that in playoff football, turnovers can be the end-all, be-all, and make the difference. And Vegas ranks 29th in turnovers forced. They get less than 1 per game. Coach Rich Bisaccia has done an admirable job taking over in an impossible situation for Vegas. He went 4-5 overall, but he did help the Raiders end the year on that hot streak. They are currently riding that 4-game win streak, and he's as green as they come when we talk about playoff coaches. But that might actually go to his advantage because he has nothing to lose in this game whatsoever. When it comes to how I see this game going, I think that both teams are likely to see what damage they can do on the ground before they go to the air, and I think it's the Bengals who open up that passing game first. It might be more of a necessity for the Raiders to do so, and that is exactly what Vegas will be trying to avoid. We are 2 months removed from it, but the Bengals did beat the Raiders by 19 back in week 11, and that was in Vegas. Cincinnati scored 19 points in the fourth quarter to pull away. In that game, Josh Jacobs was held to just 37 yards, while Joe Mixon, on the other hand, rumbled for 123. The dynamic trio of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd combined to have under 100 total yards, and Cincinnati still won walking away. So it is hard to picture Vegas being able to find a way to pull this game out. The matchup lines up nicely for the Bengals here once again. I just do not see the Raiders being able to keep up with the high-powered offense in Cincinnati. They just do not have the firepower. Their lone route here to stealing a win would be to stop that running game, keep Joe Mixon bottled up, and then be able to keep it close with consistent pressure on Joe Burrow up front, and then finally be the last team with the ball and win it on a field goal. With Joe Burrow playing on another level right now and more question marks than in their first meeting for Vegas, I believe the Cinderella story ends here for the Raiders. It could certainly be close into the third quarter, but I see the Bengals once again pulling away in the game's final frame and winning it without having to sweat. My pick for this game is Bengals 31, Raiders 20. And that'll do it for my preview for the game. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. If you disagree with anything I was talking about, please drop it down below. I would love to engage with you. If you are new to the channel, if you enjoyed the video today, please like and subscribe. Your support means the world to me, and it helps me out a ton. It allows me to do what I love so I can keep bringing you guys the content that you love. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham Opats, and we'll see you next time.